Picture this, a crime so immaculate, so flawless it baffles the finest detectives. A riddle wrapped in a mystery. Welcome to the enigmatic tale of the Chicago bank heist. Nestled in the heart of America, on the edges of the sprawling Lake Michigan stands the vibrant city of Chicago, a city of towering giants, pulsating with art, famed for its sumptuous deep-dish pizza. But behind this bustling metropolis lies a shadowy veil, a history painted in shades of crime and anarchy. It was within these shadowy corners, in this city of stark contradictions, an audacious crime of an unparalleled scale was conceived. At our tale's epicenter stands the bank, a monolith of finance renowned for its impenetrable defenses. This was no ordinary financial institution. It was a beacon of trust, a symbol of unwavering stability, a colossus in the world of finance. Its safes guarded the life savings of a multitude, its security measures, a formidable adversary. It was a fortress impervious to assault, or so they thought. In a city like Chicago, where crime was as familiar as its iconic skyscrapers, bank heists were not unheard of. Yet this heist was different, its audacity unmatched, its planning surgically precise, and the audacious nerve of its orchestrator, chilling. This was not a hastily hatched plan, but a meticulously designed operation that would confound law enforcement and seize the public's curiosity. The players were poised. The city of Chicago, with its humming streets and imposing skyline, was on the cusp of witnessing a crime so audacious, so ingenious, it would forever be imprinted in the annals of American crime lore. A crime that would leave no trace, no breadcrumb, just an echo of awe and disbelief. As the countdown began, each tick of the clock inched us closer to a moment that would send seismic shockwaves across the city. The curtain was about to rise on a heist that would forever be etched in history. Behind every audacious crime, there's a cunning mind. Meet the mastermind of the Chicago bank robbery. In the realm of crime history, few names stand out as boldly as our protagonist. A man of mystery, of strategy, and of sheer audacity. His name? Well, let's just call him the Maestro for now. His background was as ordinary as anyone else's. A childhood in a quiet suburb, a decent education, and a seemingly normal life. But beneath this facade of normalcy, lurked a mind that was anything but ordinary. The Maestro wasn't born a criminal, but he had an uncanny knack for understanding systems, for spotting loopholes, and for exploiting them. His first brush with the law was a minor offense, a youthful indiscretion some might say, but it sparked a fascination, a curiosity that would eventually lead him down a much darker path. As the years passed, this fascination turned into an obsession. The Maestro began studying the art of the heist, analyzing famous robberies, understanding the methodology, the planning, the execution. He became a student of crime, learning from the mistakes of others, and refining his own approach. The Chicago bank robbery wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. It was the result of meticulous planning, of countless hours spent studying blueprints, understanding the bank's security systems, and predicting the actions of the law enforcement. Technology was the Maestro's best friend. He used it to his advantage to gather information, to monitor activities, and to ensure that his plan would go off without a hitch. Resource gathering was the next step. The Maestro knew he couldn't pull off a heist of this magnitude alone. He needed a team, a group of individuals who were just as desperate, just as audacious as he was. And so he began recruiting, handpicking each member based on their skills, their reliability, and their willingness to risk everything for the promise of unimaginable wealth. With everything in place, the mastermind was ready to play the most dangerous game of his life. With a meticulous blueprint emblazoned in his psyche, our leading character stands prepared to enact what might just be the perfect crime. As the first light of dawn punctuated the Chicago skyline, the metropolis remained utterly ignorant of the imminent drama. Our protagonist, the epitome of poise and control, stood on the precipice of a complex dance with fate. His movements were deliberate, his manner unhurried, and his eyes radiated an unsettling serenity. Onlookers would have mistaken him for an ordinary man on his way to work, rather than a perpetrator of a crime that would send shockwaves the American heartland. As he entered the bank, his inconspicuousness was his camouflage. To the staff, he was nothing more than another customer, a solitary figure among the throng. His interaction with the bank tellers exuded courtesy and normality. He engaged in genial chit-chat, even eliciting a chuckle or two. The bank personnel remained blissfully ignorant that this congenial individual was on the brink of orchestrating a theft. As the hands of the clock marched onward, tension thickened the air. Then, when the optimal moment presented itself, he pounced. With a swift, fluid motion, he presented a note to the unsuspecting teller. Its contents were stark, yet terrifying. It dictated a hefty sum and guaranteed no harm would come if the instructions were adhered to. The teller, taken by surprise, obeyed. The transaction was so slick, so void of commotion that it went completely undetected. And just like that, the act was complete. And then, as effortlessly as he had made his entrance, he departed. With an air of nonchalance, he strolled out of the bank, dissolving into the frenetic city landscape. The bank resumed its daily operations, its staff utterly oblivious to the fact they had just been the victims of a theft. The customers continued with their business, oblivious to the fact they had just witnessed history. The bank had been robbed, and yet no one was any the wiser. It seemed that the perfect crime was indeed feasible. As news of the robbery spread, it was time for the investigators to step in. With the weight of an audacious crime on their shoulders, the investigators embarked on a relentless pursuit of justice. The initial investigation was a labyrinth of dead ends. Clues were as scarce as a leaf in winter, leaving the investigators grasping at straws. The bank, a fortress in its own right, showed no signs of forced entry. The vault, a titan of steel and concrete, was emptied without a trace of damage. This was no ordinary heist. The typical breadcrumbs left behind by criminals were notably absent. No fingerprints, no footprints, no DNA. It was as if a ghost had swept through the bank, taking with it a fortune. The lack of clues left the investigators in a state of deep frustration and bewilderment. On top of this, the media was in a frenzy, their headlines screaming about the audacious robbery that had struck the heart of America. The public too was gripped by this tale of the perfect crime. Their reactions ranged from fear to fascination, from disbelief to awe. Everyone was asking the same question: who could have pulled off such a feat? As the days turned into weeks, the investigators worked tirelessly, sifting through hours of surveillance footage, interrogating potential witnesses, and combing the crime scene for the smallest hint of a lead. But all their efforts seemed in vain. The mastermind behind this daring heist had seemingly vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but a sea of questions. The pressure was mounting. The public was growing restless, the media was demanding answers, and the investigators were running out of time. They needed a breakthrough, and they needed it soon. Despite their best efforts, the investigators were stumped. But then, a break in the case. A glimmer of hope emerged from the shadows of this perplexing mystery, promising a turn of events in this high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Just when it seemed that the perfect crime had been committed, a shocking revelation turned everything on its head. Picture this: the mastermind, having executed a flawless heist, feeling invincible, breathing a sigh of relief, thinking he's escaped the clutches of the law. But, as it turns out, even the most meticulous plans can overlook the simplest of details. The unexpected twist in this tale of audacious theft comes in the form of an insignificant piece of evidence, overlooked in the chaotic aftermath of the robbery. A single strand of hair, a piece of fabric, a fingerprint. It's often the smallest clues that crack the biggest cases. In this case, it was a forgotten coffee cup. This seemingly insignificant item left behind in the rush of the heist was the one thing that the mastermind overlooked. The cup bore the unmistakable print of the culprit, a detail that slipped through the cracks of an otherwise flawless plan. The protagonist, the mastermind of the perfect heist, was caught. The evidence was irrefutable. The fingerprint on the coffee cup matched those on the bank's vault door, a door that should have been impervious to all but the bank's staff. The public reaction was a mix of shock and disbelief. How could such a meticulously planned heist be undone by something as simple as a coffee cup? How could the mastermind, so cunning and calculated, make such a rookie mistake? The news of the capture spread like wildfire, leaving the nation in a state of collective disbelief. The audacious thief who had dared to challenge the system was now in the firm grip of the law, his dreams of a perfect crime shattered. As the gavel fell in the courtroom, the verdict echoed throughout the nation: guilty. The mastermind, once hailed as a genius, was now branded a felon. His audacious plan, his flawless execution, all came crashing down because of a single forgotten coffee cup. The perfect crime was not so perfect after all. In the end, the mastermind was undone by the simplest of mistakes. The Chicago bank robbery, a tale of audacity, meticulous planning, and a shocking end. Let's reflect on the aftermath. This audacious heist, a masterstroke of meticulous planning, left an indelible mark in America's criminal history. Yet, the The protagonist's fate serves as a stark reminder. Crime doesn't pay. It's a profound lesson echoing through the annals of time. Remember, no crime is perfect. Every action leaves a trace, however faint, waiting to be discovered.